Hello, everyone, and welcome to the STL Tech Talk podcast. My name is JJ Hammond. We have another great show for you. Are you ready for the top tech news from around St. Louis and the Midwest? Apps you should download on your favorite devices, awesome interviews, fun and lively commentary? Of course you are. Up first, however, our guest, co-founder and managing director of CIC St. Louis, the first expansion site of Cambridge Innovation Center, the world's largest single facility for housing startup companies. Before coming to St. Louis, he spent 5 years leading CIC's sales and relationship management team in Cambridge, and that's in Massachusetts. Prior to his work at CIC, he was also involved with the late Senator Edward Kennedy, served on the board of a nonprofit helping children with HIV/AIDS, and established an annual bicycle fundraiser for injured servicemen and women. Currently, he sits on the board of directors for Youth Cities, a program that introduces students to social entrepreneurship. After months of commuting, he and his family are finally Missouri residents. The incredible Dougan Sherwood. Say hello.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day for this, and I know you're getting over a cold, probably shaking all those hands. You've probably shaken more hands in the last month or so than most people do in their entire lives.
Yeah.
Also, we want to thank Brian Feldt. He is on the show as well. He is a reporter for the St. Louis Business Journal Tech Flash segment, which covers startups, venture capital, technology, and biotechnology. Welcome to the show again, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me back, guys.
No problem. And however, this show is not complete without my good friend, founder, editor-in-chief of STLTechTalk.com, producer of Codecast by STL Tech Talk, co-creator of STLTechChic.com, our Women in Tech website, the uncanny Kevin Harvell. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, everybody. Dougan, Brian, thank you for joining us this fine morning.
Thank you.
Oh, indeed, it is a fine morning. You're right. It's awesome. And don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at STL Tech Talk and all the other social media platforms, STL Tech Talk. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast. Visit STLTechTalk.com to keep up with our tech news, podcasts, codecast, programming code, hands-on reviews, event coverage, and much, much more. And don't forget, you can interact with the show by sending us feedback to podcast@STLTechTalk.com. Actually, that's changed. Sorry, Kevin. Contact@STLTechTalk.com. Change that. Contact@STLTechTalk.com. If you're watching us live, you can ask us questions via the chat room, and we'll do our very best to answer those questions in a timely manner. Special thank yous go out to Daniel Rubino and Scott Spradlin, both two awesome people. Go check out the show that we just did once that comes out, the Tech Informist, and Scott Spradlin for being on our last STL Tech Talk podcast show, just for being awesome people. Also, while I'm thanking people, let's thank the sponsors of the show, Heartland Realty. Go to heartlandhomesrealty.com for all your real estate needs, and Unidev. If you dream it, they can build it. Custom software, end-to-end development, beautiful web design, and creative marketing solutions. In business for the last 25 years, with 200-plus customers, 24/7 support, you will not be let down or left out on the creation of your dreams. If you want software development, content management systems, mobile development, website design, e-commerce solutions, digital marketing, and hosting, go to our website, click on their banner, or go to unidev.com to get high-quality service today. So let's get to it with our very first question to our guest. Dougan, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with CIC.
So I'm celebrating my 7th anniversary next month at CIC. All but the past year had been spent in Kendall Square in Cambridge, where the company was headquartered. I am from Massachusetts. And for the past 5 years or so, I've been running the sales team for CIC. As it's grown from a company when I first started, it was about 7 or 8 people, and now we have about 100+ employees. And I'm obviously speaking to you from our brand new offices in St. Louis and my new home. This year has been an incredible year for me personally and professionally, as I've had an opportunity to take this new venture for our company and bring it to St. Louis. So it's just an incredible. I get to be the figurehead for CIC St. Louis, but there are many people both around me down the hall, down the street at our other location, as well as in Cambridge, who worked for a couple of years to make this all happen. So yeah, just a busy guy, but loving life right now.
So how has it been to go from because you kind of have a very cool background. Don't get me wrong, but it's been a trajectory of different sorts. I mean, you're doing different things. Obviously, you're not involved necessarily with politics anymore, that kind of thing. But I mean, you seem to have done a lot. And tell me a little bit about that journey.
So I am one of your classic people who would describe themselves as not sure what he wants to be when he grows up.
Sure.
And
Those
when
are
I was
awesome.
in
When
I was in high school and in college, that plagued me. And for a lot of my 20s, it did as well. I really thought that I was sort of missing something, and I was one Myers-Briggs type test away from figuring out that I should be flying airplanes or something like that.
Sure.
And so there was never this one thing that I was sort of hell bent on doing. And so while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up, I chose to sort of surround myself by interesting environments and interesting people, and figured that if I didn't know, then I might learn something from them, or might be inspired by the environment that I'm in, and go from there. And so if you look at the past 20 years of my life since I've been out of high school and college, you've seen that I've lived in multiple states. I went to 3 undergraduate colleges. I've been in experiential education. Thought I was going to go into government. Did work for the late Senator Kennedy. Have half of my master's degree in public policy, and effectively sort of got a lot of those things out of my system, or decided that those were not, working for the federal government. I just decided that really wasn't where my energies were best served.
Sure.
And then I found my way to Boston. I'm from Massachusetts, and a few years ago moved to Boston and met a guy named Tim Rowe who's running CIC, and it seemed like the closest thing I'd ever felt to home from a professional perspective.
Wow. Okay.
He's built a business that's headquartered across the street from MIT, and the place is crawling with people from MIT and Harvard and all the other schools in the Boston area. And long story short is that I sort of concluded that if I'm not a tech guy per se. I never, I don't have that passion for technology that so many other people around me do. But I absolutely loved entrepreneurship and the sort of spirit behind building something from scratch. And working for CIC has given me the opportunity to really feel like I'm being an entrepreneur at points in my life where, I didn't have the resources to go and start my own business, or wasn't interested in taking on the risk of starting my own business. Because I have a family now and good stuff like that. But that's really how I found my way. And so, and being an entrepreneur, I think, is the type of experience where there's no test that will test you into saying, yep, you should be an entrepreneur.
Right.
And I found that there are so many people like me who, found that it's a true asset and a blessing to not have this, to be sort of uncertain about certain things, because of what you end up doing is start exploring.
Right. So would you say that you really enjoy just the energy around startups and entrepreneurs? Just their, I would say, and I'm just going to throw this out there, based off of what you just said. If I was to look at politics and see where hope and souls go to die, and then the difference between that and startups, where hope is what people live on sometimes, aside from ramen noodles, you chose the latter.
Yeah. Well, let me just clarify. I spent 6 months working in the U.S. Senate, and what I concluded is that there's a lot of good people on both sides of the aisle that are trying to do the right thing. Right. It's just complicated, and what I concluded is that I actually have a more positive view of that world than a lot of people, because of what I personally experienced there.
Really?
I saw a lot of good people that are trying to do things, but what I concluded is that I don't have the patience, I don't have the self-discipline to struggle for years and years on one piece of legislation. And
most people don't.
And that's
not in our nature. We need that not instant gratification, not because that's a whole another thing. But we need some sort of, like, at the end of the day, going, look what I did, instead of at the end of 10 years or 20 years saying, I finally got this done.
Right, and there's so much, understandable sort of red tape to simplify a really complicated situation in a government process, where starting a business from scratch doesn't have that. Right. So when I came to CIC, it literally was a couple of years after I had I had been working, in the government, and it was like night and day. It was like a dog being let out of the yard, and
Awesome.
that's part of the reasons why I've made it my career.
Well, I love being down there. Kevin, you're up with your next question.
So what was it about St. Louis that attracted CIC to want to expand to this area?
So we, in 2011, 2012, the company we started in 1999, and so we were, 10, 11 or 12 years old, and we were getting to the point where we really decided that we wanted to expand our model outside of the Cambridge and Boston market. And we began to look in other cities, and our attention in the beginning was definitely not in St. Louis. So it really is an incredible story that brought us here today, and one that I'm very proud of, and I think a lot of people in St. Louis are proud of. Our natural eyes were drawn. Our eyes were naturally drawn, I should say, to cities like San Francisco and New York, and perhaps some cities abroad, and really where there was established large international tech hubs. And St. Louis is not that yet, of course.
Right.
And so what we concluded, though, was that the complexities and the cost of getting into those markets was really substantial. And you add to that an observation that we sort of made about ourselves as we were going through this journey of determining, how and where and how it would work if we did go to a place like San Francisco. And I think what we determined is that there's something less interesting for us at this point in our lives for going to a place like San Francisco. San Francisco is doing great, and it isn't to say that they don't have problems, because I know they do. And I'm not saying that we couldn't help, but there was something, I don't know, slightly less romantic about going to a place that's already sort of on the top of the hill.
Sure.
And so we started to sort of ask ourselves, what if we went to a place that's really up and coming, that isn't really there yet, but could use our help, but is doing great on their own, but just has got a long way to go. And once we sort of asked ourselves those questions, that's when things really began to get a little bit more interesting to us. And then we started to look at these smaller market cities like St. Louis, and it didn't take us long once we got here and started touring around and meeting with some of the leadership and the local startup scene that we realized that there's a lot of really cool stuff going on here. And lots of cities are trying to do this stuff, but St. Louis is further along, it's more mature, the resources and the people behind it I don't want to say that they have stronger convictions than any other cities, because that's not true. Mm-hmm. But we were really inspired by the people who were here. Right. And then if I were to add just a couple of specific things to why we came to St. Louis, there is a model that is being crafted here that I now will call the Cortex District, which we think is going to be a model that the nation other cities around the country will study and probably emulate to some degree. And it really is this sort of work, live, play, learn, collaborative environment that's being stood up, and they gave us an opportunity to put ourselves right in the middle of it, and we decided, hell yeah, let's go to St. Louis.
That's awesome. No, and you guys are building, and don't take this wrong, but you're building a utopia down there. I mean, it's going to be like its own awesome sphere. Because you got the MetroLink that is going to drop right in there. I can see what the vision that area has, and it's gorgeous. There's going to be small businesses that are going to start up right alongside there. I was just there on Friday, turning around there with Mark, and looking about what that event's going to look like. Your guys' when you guys open that thing up, and. Mm-hmm. Man, it's gorgeous. When everything gets done and everything happens around it, not just the 4240 building that you guys are in, but what's going to happen to the surrounding area, it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, it is, and I can't believe how it's evolved in the 8 or 9 months that I've been part of this movement on a day-to-day basis. But it's a lot of work, and it takes a village, and I'm so grateful that there are so many people, not only in Cortex and this building that we're in, but throughout the city that are fans of ours, that are cheering for us, that have ownership in this, and you can tell this is a city that has deep personal roots. Yeah. A lot of people that are part of the startup scene grew up here. I'm an anomaly in the sense that I don't have any ties historically. My family's not from here, but I've been embraced.
That's not a bad thing, trust me.
No, well, my point is that there's a lot of energy coming at us, and yes. So. my job is to really just do as much as I can to embrace it and help build something that I think the community is going to value. And it already has. I mean, we've only been open for a week, but we're already starting to see how big this could actually become.
So, so how do you? I know this isn't a quote, but I'm just kind of curious. How do you manage expectations? I mean, you're probably sick from, like I said, shaking so many people's hands. How do you? I mean, people are name dropping you. I mean, we're a small community, per se, right now, and it's continuing to grow. But how do you manage that sort of like, oh, well, you need to talk to Dougan or Dougan this or Dougan that? Yeah, how do you manage those expectations?
Well, first of all, you're making me feel a lot more popular than I really think I am.
No, trust you, you are.
Well, it's nice of you, but it's funny. I had we have a staff review just as a sort of insight into sort of how CIC runs. We had sort of a staff review of me 2 weeks ago, and my boss was in town, Tim Rowe, the founder of CIC, and
met him, shook his hand.
Yeah, and actually, we invited Dennis Lauer, the CEO of Cortex, to join in my review. And this is a very sort of personal thing, right, where you sort of talk about your strengths and your weaknesses. And one of the areas that I sort of need to focus on in terms of an area development really is sort of establishing boundaries, where you just run out of time.
Sure.
And there's a lot of excitement here, but my wife did not miss the opportunity to point out that I'm probably sick this weekend because, we've been running it, in the red for just way too long, and the engine's starting to run out a little bit. So part of my maturing as like a young leader in this business is to sort of figure out how to make sure that I walk away and not, because there'll always be people around. There's always lots of interest, but it's just time management, communication, and all that good stuff. People understand. We all have heavy inboxes, so there's no reason to stay up until 2 in the morning trying to clear it out every night.
Yeah, and if somebody talks me into the ground, I have a hard time walking away. I really do. Because you're genuinely a nice person, and I mean that with all due respect. And
Thank you.
And so I would assume, like me, you're just like, man, I really don't want to tell this person, but I'm tired of talking to you, bro.
Yeah.
This isn't going anywhere. Now we're just talking to talk, and honestly, I don't even do that with my wife. So no, I'm just kidding. So Kevin, you're up with the next question.
All right. So, how many spaces are available there at the CIC facility, and who are some of the bigger name companies, the more well-known, and some of the diversity between the startups that have chosen to become tenants of CIC?
So in the location that just launched, 4240 Duncan Avenue, which we're calling CIC at 4240, we have all told about 75 offices in our 32,000 square foot second floor space. We have about 25 offices full, so we're maybe about a third of the way there or so, and we've only been open for a week, so I'd put us at 25 to 30% full, so we have about 60 or so people, and we'll be able to get, there's some real wiggle room in terms of the number of people who could be here, but could be anywhere from 200 to 300 people when we're fully built out. So we've got a lot of room to go and a lot of space to fill, but we're off to an incredible start after being here just for a week and having about 25 companies. The companies that are here are some very famous companies and some really well-known local companies and some companies that are just starting out, and that's exactly how we want it. So there's a great diversity of people. The most well-known company that was released publicly this week was Nestle Purina. They're taking an office here. And other companies that are really well-known in the local St. Louis scene include Steve Young, the entrepreneur Steve Young, and his company Cynic. This is a beer drinking town, and he's coming up with a whole new solutions for that, which is really cool. I know you guys were part of the startup Voodoo a couple of weeks ago, and one of the finalist startups was a startup called Champio by Yolite from WashU. She's right down the hall from me right now.
Yeah,
and,
I saw her when I was walking through there, and she was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey," I was like, "Man, I wish I was in here."
Yeah. Well, you guys will have to come here. And then we've got a lot of really wonderful support organizations that are part of the startup scene, including Polsinelli Law Firm, Marie Carley with Stone Carley, Carter Williams and
Missouri
the
Venture Forum.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Carter Williams and the iSelect investment fund is here as well. Chris Miller, who's the founder of the Mission Center. So we've really got a really great eclectic group. Idea Labs is an incubator accelerator program out of WashU, and those guys have a space here. So OG Systems, which is a Virginia-based company that's become quickly known for the guys that funded the cash reward for Global Hack.
All right, the most.
That
recent
was a
one.
lot of fun. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So.
That's awesome.
A lot of good companies.
So
What is the
go ahead.
application process for someone that is looking to move into CIC?
So our focus is on startup businesses and early stage companies, but by no means, as you can sort of glean from the companies that are already here, ranging from investment groups to corporates like Nestle, we don't have a specific criterion. You can be a law firm and be at CIC. You can be a corporate and be welcome here, along with a startup like Champio. And the reality is that they all matter. They're all value adds to the community. We really want to build this sort of robust thing that isn't just one thing. So the only criteria that we really look at when a company is interested in being part of CIC is that you need to meet us in person. So we can walk you through the space and look you in the eyes and just get a sense of who you are as a person. Is this somebody that we trust? Is this someone that we would want in our apartment building in our neighborhood? And is your business legal and ethical from our perspective? We're not an investor. We don't take equity, so we're not looking at we're not vetting any business models from the perspective of an investor. We really want to know, is this, are you good people with a decent business, decent in the moral, ethical way, not if it's a good idea or not.
Right.
And that's really it.
That's cool. I didn't know that about. I thought, I'm thinking money's money, but not all money is equal.
No, the reason we do this is that at the core of everything that we do is community, and so we've all been part of a team, I'm sure, or had some sort of a group dynamic where one person isn't a fit, and it just kills everything or makes everything so much more complicated.
Sure.
So that's why we require that we meet everybody in person, because we really aren't. We're not scrubbing this terribly hard, but we want to make sure that the people here understand normal boundaries in a healthy community. We don't put locks on most of our doors. We have all sorts of things that you could just unload and walk away with hundreds of dollars worth of food or paper or. Hell, we've got iPads that are Velcroed to the walls all over the place.
That's true. When I was there, your guys' the ringer, like how people, the old school, the bell thong, like you're here or whatever. It was just sitting out there. I'm like, I'm surprised more people, you guys are really trustworthy. And the lady that was there, she was like, no, we trust these people that are in CIC. We trust that we can leave those things out.
Right. People don't want to be. We could create all sorts of boundaries and hard rules and things like that. It would increase the complexity of our business significantly to have to manage all those things.
Sure.
But we'd rather, and people don't want to be managed, especially strong entrepreneurs. They want to just have the space, run it, do what they need to do, and then be done with it.
That's true.
And so we've been able to create a model that invites a certain level of permeability. And it's not perfect. We have had iPads that have been stolen.
Really?
But in the 4 or 5 years that we've had iPads on our walls, and we use these for our conference room reservation systems, in the few years that we've had these, 3 or 4 of them gone missing doesn't make it a policy that we should actually, create something. It might be wise for us someday to invent something that makes it look even really cool and just has this little frame that makes it hard to steal.
Right.
We'll get there,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what can current and prospective tenants expect from CIC St. Louis in the future?
Let's see, lots of good stuff. So we've already received great feedback from the clients that are here, and we've already hosted we started our weekly networking event called Venture Cafe. I know you guys were there.
Yes.
That's just going to get stronger and stronger. It's a community-wide effort. So week one was an incredible success, and so I can't wait for next week. So I think that there's ultimately going to be some sort of a regional or national pitch that we're going to hit in terms of the level of activity and talk about St. Louis. and things like Venture Cafe are going to be really important. A couple other things that I want to sort of call out that I think people can expect to see is we've been focused over the past 2 months really on our space at 4240 Duncan.
Right.
But what you don't probably know is that we just broke ground last week on a $6 million expansion plan or renovation on our other location, literally right down the street at CIC at CET, the former Center for Emerging Technologies. So just as we wrap up the holidays and get into early next year, we're going to be turning on phase 1 of 2 phases of our renovations at CIC at CET. And that's going to begin with a beautiful new co-working space. The first co-working space in the Cortex district will be at CIC at CET, and we expect to have anywhere from 130 to 150 people who can use our co-working space. And we're going to be modeling it after the space that we've created in Cambridge, which currently houses almost 450 people.
Wow,
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. No, it's gorgeous, and what you guys are doing is phenomenal. Kevin or Brian, do you have any questions for this wonderful guest?
Brian, I know you haven't had a chance to say too much over there, so I'm sure you've got a few things in mind.
No, I think there's a lot of interesting things. It's certainly one of the better things happening in St. Louis right now, especially with CIC and Dougan, you guys just opening up last week, and it was in my notes to kind of say about all of the corporate buy-in. It seems to be one of the better examples of corporate St. Louis buying into this whole tech and startup and entrepreneurship ecosystem, whether it's Purina, Dougan, like you mentioned, or Boeing, just a floor beneath, or Reuben Brown or Hush Blackwell down below. It's just it's a good mix of people there. So it's going to be exciting. I think it'll be interesting to see how CIC moving forward will help St. Louis companies, at least from the tech point of view and the investment point of view, attract more capital, get more capital into St. Louis, but also introduce some companies to outside capital. And I believe you guys are doing that, Dougan, bringing some biotech companies up to Boston in a week or two. So
yeah, actually, they just believe it or not, Brian, they just came and went, and I haven't actually had a chance to follow up with them. But yeah, case in point, and it's one other thing I would say that people can expect to see more of is that we are coming from one of the top venture fund cities in the United States, in Boston, and so we're coming up with the right strategy to introduce those companies to the startup world in St. Louis, because we think that if they just spent some time here and met some of the leaders that are starting these businesses and realized some of these ideas and the talent base behind them, that it's just a matter of time before we start to see real traction on the ground from some of these Boston-based startup or venture funds, rather. Case in point is in a reverse move, the biogenerator, our friends right down the street in the Cortex district, brought 3 of the top St. Louis medical device companies to Boston, to CIC, and use CIC sort of as their home platform to introduce these medical device companies to a number of different venture funds in the Boston area, and so I'm excited to hear how that went and what came out of it. But it's just these small moves, like 3 companies going up there for 2 days, and we do this sort of a repeated drumbeat. Things are going to start to change.
Well, I know all of us are excited to see what you guys are going to do in the future, and I know that there's a lot of people that want this to succeed because, like we've talked about before, this is a community, and there's a lot of support behind wanting to see more positive things come out of St. Louis. So, Dougan, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for being a friend of the show, talking to me off and on camera and all that stuff. We can't thank you enough for taking the time out to speak with us today.
Hey, thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and you can follow Dougan at CIC_St. Louis, and he also has some other stuff at stl.cic.us. So go check that stuff out, and again, Dougan, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, sir.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, Kevin, let's get started with the top tech news stories from around the St. Louis area and get us started with the news rundown.
All right. So, Brian, I know we brought you on to kind of talk about some of the stories that are big kind of going on. You do a really great tech
phenomenal
flash, yes, with the Business Journal over there in St. Louis. You guys are always talking about great tech news, and I know we pull a lot of stories because, I mean, you guys are covering things so well. Do you have a couple things that you would like to talk about, make sure we discuss today?
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, like I said, thanks for having me again. I was going to talk a lot about the CIC and the 4240 building in Cortex, but you guys pretty much covered that with Dougan. But, like I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, it's just a great mesh of corporate and startups and entrepreneurial minds that are going to break together. And the fact that they're bringing some of those medical device companies up to Boston and getting them access to potentially that capital in Boston, which is one of the best in the world, is just huge for the St. Louis ecosystem.
I agree.
One of the other stories that I was going to talk about is another medical device maker called EndoStim. It just filed for a $35.8 million IPO. And so that will be going on in the next several months in terms of selling out their shares, but there are several big investors that stand to gain from this. Just to name a few on the list: the St. Louis Archangels, the St. Louis University Billiken Angel Network, Stifel's Vectis Healthcare and Life Science Fund, the Missouri Technology Corporation. That's going to be money that's returned to those investment entities that traditionally play in the tech space. So if they can funnel that money back into the tech community, get some of these emerging companies, whether they're in the CIC or whether they're over at T-Rex or whether they're just operating out of somebody's basement, if they can get some money to those companies, it's really going to help add jobs to the community and really progress some of these companies going forward. So I'm looking forward to see what will happen there. Two other stories that I thought were interesting, and they're more corporate tech stories. But Boeing recently, as you may or may not know, their space defense unit is based here in Hazelwood. They employ a bunch of people, but they were awarded a slice of a $6.8 billion space taxi program. It sounds cool, and it is. It's essentially they're going to be building a shuttle that's going to take astronauts to and from the International Space Station. NASA officials think it's going to be the first step to taking astronauts to Mars. It's a big win for Boeing, rather. I think that their slice of it is $4.2 billion. Also involved in the contract is SpaceX, which is Elon Musk's company. So they're playing in the right circles, and I just thought it was an interesting thing that you wouldn't necessarily think of Boeing doing.
Because you see more of them doing military contracting type of work as of late.
Yeah, building jets, doing things like that. But they do a lot in the in the space industry too.
Right. You always talk about the big story now is the one way to Mars. And when you hear Elon Musk's name, you normally associate that with the Tesla cars.
Yeah,
they've got a lot of stuff going on there. So it's interesting to see Boeing and Elon Musk kind of almost working hand in hand to a point, but they're going to be collaborating a little bit with the SpaceX.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how it all develops.
You're on a roll, Brian. Keep it going.
So I was out at MasterCard's campus out in O'Fallon maybe a week or two ago, but they had an Investor Day demos where they were demoing a lot of their new technology. Not sure if anybody here knows, or it's not too known, is that MasterCard does a lot of its technology development here in St. Louis, out in O'Fallon, Missouri, where they have their office of operations center.
Yeah, and
they have a ton of cool stuff happening. I don't know exactly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your feed was breaking up. I just wanted to throw this little tidbit in there. So somebody told me that all transactions, or at least most of them from around the world, happen in O'Fallon. That is crazy to me.
Yeah, every time you swipe at a coffee shop, every time you swipe anywhere, it's going through O'Fallon, Missouri, or there's another spot out in Kansas City too. But they're doing a lot of cool stuff around biometrics. So you use your iPhone where you can use your fingerprint to get into your phone. Well, MasterCard's taken it one step further, and they're helping develop technology to use your heartbeat to authenticate purchases that you make online. So everybody has a unique heartbeat. They're using that to help develop into their MasterPass digital wallet program. MasterCard has the MasterCard Labs out there, which is essentially an incubator for technology that they're working on. So lots of cool stuff happening around MasterCard, and something that you don't necessarily think because you use it so often, and it just, it's a mindless transaction, but there's a lot of technology that's happening out of St. Louis that is helping assist that.
Yeah.
That's
now,
gorgeous.
You were also at the Venture Cafe St. Louis event this past Thursday down at CIC.
Yeah.
What were some of your takeaways from the event that they put on down there?
I thought it was great. I thought Travis did a great job of getting people. The good thing that I saw there was I saw a lot of people that I had never met before, which is fantastic. Because usually we're going to these these happy hours or these networking events, and it's a lot of the same faces. Well, Thursday Adventure Cafe, I saw a lot of people that I hadn't met yet, and I talked to Travis and had told him that I think it'll be a challenge to keep it up like that, but I think he's up for it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it progresses. And it doesn't hurt that the Urban Chestnut beer was on tap.
Right.
It doesn't hurt at all. That's for sure.
That always helps.
It's a great location and it's a great idea. And like you said, I think doing this on a weekly basis can possibly be a challenge. And you're not going to have the same amount of people. I mean, it was pretty packed. People were shoulder to shoulder. A lot of great conversations.
Yeah, it was a great turnout.
But to repeat that week to week, it's going to be tough, but it's still going to be great. Even if they get half that on a weekly basis, even better.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Yeah, I totally agree. So any more stories, Brian? I honestly, you raised the quality of the show just by being here. So you're making me and Kevin work harder, which is fine, whatever. But no, go ahead.
No, I'm out of stories. In fact, I got to get back to my desk and write everything else out for Tech Flash here in a couple short minutes. So I'm out.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your appearance on the show. Like I said, you raised the level and raised the bar, so hopefully we'll continue to keep doing that. We can't thank you enough for being on, and we look forward to when you come back on. I hope you have a great, wonderful rest of your day, and you meet all those deadlines.
You too, guys. We'll see you soon.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks,
take care.
Brian.
Bye-bye. Alrighty then, so I'm up. Dan Lohman was recently at the 1 Million Cups to demo and present the new push-up social app, which is, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's an awesome app, and Kevin will tell you more about it later. Next, I want to hop on to Sell a Ride. Yes, I said sell a ride. Sell a ride. Now, brought to you by way of Capital Innovators, which is located around St. Louis, is an app on iOS that uses text messaging to incorporate an interactive experience in third-party automotive sales. You can add photos of the vehicle, add videos for virtual test drives. That sounds awesome. Provide the Carfax, show me the Carfax facts, and then create a ride tag, all of which are included in the application. I'm excited to see this when it comes out.
Yeah, hopefully they don't just leave it on iOS devices and bring it to Android and Windows Phone as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you might as well, if you're going to have a great service, you might as well
spread
have it available. Right, spread it to as many people as possible. Now that's sell a ride, not like selling something. It's sell as in CELL, a ride.
Right.
So like cell phone, smartphone.
Like it a cell phone. Like it a cell phone.
Yes. And another little bit of news, I know it's not on there, is that Uber Black has recently been approved. I'm not exactly sure when it's going to officially launch and be available for users here in St. Louis, but the Metropolitan Taxi Cab Commission, I mean, it's kind of been a long thing with Lyft and Uber. I know Lyft doesn't have their next hearing until sometime mid to late next year. And this new Uber Black is based on Uber, but it's a more premium service, so it's going to be able to be up and running here in St. Louis in the hopefully not too distant future. And it's a little bit more pricier, obviously, because you're going to use really nice, much nicer cars. The restrictions for drivers and their vehicles is a little higher, and definitely the way that they're going to work around this with some of these permits is, with customers that are requesting a ride, they have to, when the driver comes to pick them up, the driver's going to have to be so far away from the door. For example, if it's a hotel, they have to be so many feet away from the door, where taxis can just run right up in front of the door. People can just walk right out. The driver is also going to have to show, hey, I've been requested to be here. It's not one of those I could just park here in front of a hotel.
I see.
Sit here for 35 minutes or whatever. So there's some more restrictions, but it looks like things are finally starting to progress here in St. Louis. And as you can see with the Dougan and what CIC is doing, it's good to see St. Louis progress in this direction. And just from people that I spoke with at the Startup Voodoo panel, the night before the conference a couple weeks ago. Just hearing that experience from Jason Falls, being in Louisville, Kentucky, and just from other people that are around, San Francisco, where it's real big. They just say it is such a much nicer experience than just being in a regular taxi.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, it's cool. It's good to know. Up next, brought to you by way of CapitalInnovators.com, is the Meet the Fall class of 2014. So it was great, an exciting year for them. Oh, what happened? Okay, that was weird. Kevin, you hit something and then
I know. I actually went to click on the link and it.
Yeah, but no, I was in a Chrome, and when you did something, I heard you do it, and then it threw me back to Internet Explorer. How weird is that?
That is weird.
That's just weird. That's very strange. And you know what's also strange? Is I have you on a completely separate computer than the one I was working off of.
Wow.
Get out of my head. Get out of my
Eerie.
security, or get out of my cyber head. Anyway, so here's a couple of things. Reach Dynamics. Reach Dynamics provides simple solutions which allow newsletters and transaction email senders to monetize their messages with dynamically targeted advertising, and that's cool. So check them out at Reach Dynamics on Twitter. Global Yodel. I know that sounds weird, but it's at Global Yodel on Twitter. This is actually out of Washington, but Takeo believes that people deserve the best possible user experience regardless of the device without having to sacrifice productivity. Takeo provides exactly by offering people an intuitive way to view and modify any type of file on any mobile device. That's interesting. That comes to us from Israel. Also, Smart Care Consultants. This one is in St. Louis, Missouri. The Smart Care system provides peace of mind and true 24-hour transparent care for seniors and families with loved ones at home and their retirement community through intuitive, non-obtrusive safety devices. Here's the next one, PFITR. This is out of St. Louis, and that's at PFITR. Public Funds Investment Tracking and Reporting provides a cost-effective, productive, and holistic software package that is elegant in its simplicity, yet fully compliant with all state and local reporting requirements. The Public Funds Investment Tracking and Reporting offers innovative business intelligence solutions, including advanced risk and compliance analysis and in-depth guidance that you can only expect from years of experience with municipal investment jobs. So HIPAA Trek, that's also out of St. Louis, guides healthcare organizations and their business associates on their journey through the HIPAA compliance, which is difficult to do. Yeah, I forgot. I don't know why I didn't just say HIPAA Trek. I'm so used to seeing that anyway. So all of those are really cool and exciting things that you should check out. Click on the link. It'll be on our show notes. Let's go ahead, Kevin, and slide right down into our upcoming St. Louis Tech meetups. I'll go up first. Actually, I'll just go in general because I see JJ. Monday, that's tonight, October 6th, at Integrity Core off Delmar Loop. Starts at 6:30 p.m. Click this link on the show notes, at STL WordPressers on Twitter. Check out how you can use the customizer to change WordPress themes. Also, tonight is the St. Louis Ember.js meetup. We're going to send out tweets to all these people so that they can retweet it and talk about it or whatever. We're a part of the community, so that's what we're doing here at STL Tech Talk, is we're talking about all this kind of stuff. The meetup group is awesome, so expect that. Now, tomorrow, which is most of you will probably go to, maybe down at T-Rex, the STL Python group is getting together, and that's at STL Python on Twitter. So everybody should go to check that out if you're interested in programming. And then friend of the show and business, Tuesday, October 14th, Jason Dean from Nebula is going to be speaking at Start Louis. Also, there's going to be Laura Wiley. She's a really awesome person, and she has her own company there, Marketing Lift, I believe, and so I think everybody should check that out as well. She's going to be there to say hey. Also, special guest and keynote speaker Susan Sawyer. So that's going to be all at Start Louis, and then we will be at CIC on Friday, October 25th, for their open house. It is going to be rocking. 24th. Correction, yes. October 24th. So it's going to be awesome and rocking and happening. Also Saturday, October 25th at Nebula STL, there's going to be a live stream from the San Francisco WordCamp Conference. Also click here to join the meetup at STL WordPressers. I know it's probably driving crazy when I say click here and there's nothing for people to click. Just go to the show notes and you'll be able to click on there. But if I didn't cover your event, or if there's an event you want me to promote on our show, contact us using our social media handles, or send us an email, contact@stltechtalk.com for more information. Now, having said that, Kevin, was there anything you wanted to add to the end of this wonderful episode?
Yes, there was one other event that's coming up this Friday that I do want to kind of touch on a little bit. AOL,
Bring it!
Yeah, AOL co-founder Steve Case is coming to St. Louis this Friday as part of their rest of what is it called? The rest of the pitch, rest of the rise of the rest. That's it. And they're coming to St. Louis, as you know, they're going to 5 different cities in total. And St. Louis is this Friday. So Steve's going to be here talking with these companies that are pitching for, I believe it's $100,000. Yes, winning startup will win a $100,000 investment from Steve Case and a trip to 2015 South by Southwest Startup Village. So sure. The companies that are going to be pitching this Friday here in St. Louis is Betaversity, Better Weekdays, Dabble, hopefully I'm not going to like butcher this, Eateria, Material Mix, Meter Genius, My Ed Match, Need/Want, Cynic, and TuneSpeak. Now again, I mean there's Cynic again, Steve Young. I mean, as we know, he's got a space down at CIC, and he's been on the show multiple times. They're just doing really good. The most successful St. Louis originated Kickstarter. You know, they raised over $600,000, and I mean things are just going really well with Cynic and everything that they've got going on. So that is this Friday. You'll be able to find out a lot more information here in the show notes, but there's fireside chat with Steve Case at Washington University at 10 a.m. in the Bauer Hall and Knight Hall. The actual Rise of the Rest pitch competition is 3:30 at Downtown T-Rex, which is at 911 Washington Avenue, if you did not already know that. So the 10 local startups will pitch their business to Steve Case for the chance to win $100,000. The event is free, and then there will be a Rise St. Louis Startup Celebration at 5 p.m. at the City Museum. So you can join the Rise of the Rest bus crew for a happy hour and hear which company that pitched earlier in the day will be the winner of that $100,000 investment. That event is also free and part of the Rise of the Rest bus tour. So very exciting things going on in here with St. Louis and technology and startups in general.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Also, I wanted the charities for everybody to know about Hopeline, a domestic violence prevention program. And yes, I was doing this before it was cool. The Women's Safe House, so go check that out. Safe Connections, and the Schumann Water Project. And essentially what that is to provide clean water for developing nations so that they can have drinkable water. So we want to again say thank you to our guests, Dougan Sherwood and Brian Feldt from the Biz Journal, St. Louis Biz Journal to be more specific.
One last thing before we wrap up, though, but go ahead and finish that up.
So thank you guys. We really appreciate it. And Kevin, one more last thing before we wrap that up.
All right. Now we've talked about for the last couple of weeks, we've had a contest giveaway going for a Jambox Mini Bluetooth wireless speaker, and the contest ended at midnight last night, this morning, and we're going to go ahead and do the winner. We're going to give that away live on the show today. So I'm going to go ahead and get this set up where we do a screen share so everybody can see this live, and then we will be in contact with the winner right after the show via email or via whatever way we can get a hold of them for sure. So time for do a screen share, and screen should be shared. So everybody should be able to see right now the Rafflecopter page. for this giveaway. Mini Jam Box by Jawbone. Here's our giveaway. So I need to just pick a winner. Right now we get one winner because we're only giving away one. And hit add a random winner. And this is Evan Thomas. So he won with his entry. Leave a review of the STL Tech Talk podcast on Stitcher Radio. So congratulations, Evan. So we will be in contact with you to you.
Way to go, man.
Yeah, so awesome. Thank you, everybody that entered and participated in that. And we'll be in discussion to get that to you as soon as possible, possibly even tomorrow. So we'll be in talks with you soon. But that's all I've got.
That is awesome. That's all. Yeah. Drop the mic, Kev. Walk away. Yeah. Dude, we just did like 2 shows in a row. Awesome. Wonderful. Everything was perfect. So thank you again to all of our fans. We love you. And thank you for the support of our show. So from the entire STL Tech Talk crew, stay frosty. We're out.